Hey Starsky, why are we recording you with a MIDI controller when you're surrounded by all these beautiful hardware synths? Well, that's pretty much the point, because I haven't got that much experience with MIDI controllers, and I get so many comments from people saying, isn't that just a synth in a box? You're better off with a MIDI controller. And not having that much experience with them, I thought it was well worth having a look at basically a new one and how they've moved on since I last used them years and years ago when I was almost all in the box. Okay, makes a little sense. Here's Arturia's Keylab Essentials Mk3. It's brand new out. My man in a pub told me it was coming out. I've got a mate who knows a mate who's got a man down a pub, who's got another mate down another pub. So I got in touch with Arturia and they've sent me this one. Yes, it's on loan, and yes, I hope they don't ask for it back because it is actually quite handy. But as I said in the intro there, I do get lots of comments. It's hard to argue against the sort of financial aspects of that. This is lots cheaper than a lot of the stuff I've got lying around me here, and it takes up a lot less space. So let's take a look. Okay, I can see overhead shots coming now.
So here it is, all fired up. We've got 49 full-size keys, and these feel okay. They don't feel as nice as some of my more expensive synths, but they're more than adequate, and they're so much better than some of my old vintage things anyway. We've got 8 pads over here on the left-hand side. These got 2 banks, that's 8. And you can see the full RGB LED. And we use the Arturia MIDI control center to set all those parameters, so we can see the color changing on each of the banks. That's bank A, this is bank B. We've got the type, which is gate, so it's on or off. We've got the note down there as well. We can change the note. We can, let's put it back onto a G#3. Change the type, so it's toggle on or off switch. MIDI channel, LEDs on or off. All the things you might expect. We can do the same on the knobs and the sliders as well. On the faders or the sliders, we've got 2 different modes, fader or drawbar. On a drawbar, as you pull it down, it gets louder, and as you push it up, it gets quieter for each of the drawbars, which is exactly like you get on an old Hammond organ. But again, set the CC, set the MIDI channel, minimum, maximum values. One thing you can't set is system exclusive messages, which would have been nice to control things like my Alpha Juno 2, but not very many people need to use that, which is why not many things have it. So it's not a biggie, that one. But what it would be nice to do is to be able to name these sliders and these functions. If we come into, for example, the Minifreak program I've set up, it tells you it's fader 1 and fader 2. But it'd be nice if it told you what the actual value you were changing was. So looking at the Minifreak software, there's the cutoff changing, there's the resonance, and all the various bits and bobs I've got set up with these knobs. So things with the oscillators, envelope, cutoff, volumes. And I'll take a look at that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But yeah, you just can't see what fader 1's doing. So if you're using generic MIDI CCs for all of them and all your soft synths, at least you could see what's happening. Again, not a biggie, just a nice to have. But that does bring us over to the screen, and you just see me flicking through the programs here. So we've got DAW integration, I've set it up for the Minifreak, and I've set it up for the Spark as well. Set it up for the Spark here, let's put it into bank 1. It's playing some Lindrum samples. And of course, we've got the transport buttons as well. Stop, start. We can sort of fast forward, we can tap the tempo, turn the click on or off, turn the cycle on or off, save, quantize, undo, and redo. And it does come with integration for Logic, Ableton, Cubase, and a couple of others, Fruity Loops, I think, as well. But check all that out on the website. So on the right here as well, we've got hold, chord, scale, and ARP. Hold mode, which holds like you might expect, comes in handy with the ARPs. Got a chord mode as well, we can set our own chord. Or we can use the presets it's got in here. Release to edit, presets, we've got octave, fifths, major triads, major sevenths, all the things you might quite like. And some that you might not. Let's turn that off. Come out of there. We've also got scales as well. loads of different scales that we've got in here as well. So chromatic, minor, Dorian, what's that? Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Locrian. There's a few here I've never heard of. That was that. Phrygish, never heard of that one. But anyway, just means that you can play stuff, obviously, without being able to play stuff. Everything you play is in tune. Very handy, but lots of things have that, don't they? But it's nice that it's here on a controller keyboard. It means you're not going back and forth to your software. Let's put it back into chromatic so I don't confuse myself later on. There's a fair few in here. Am I going round and round? There you go, I am. Okay. And then we've got an ARP built in as well. Long press to edit. Here we go. So ARP's on there. We go to the modes. We've got up, down, inclusive, exclusive, random, and in the order. We've got division, we've got the gate, we've got all the things that you might expect. Swing, rate, sync, and octaves. And again, it's handy to have all this stuff here, so you're not having to go back to the computer. And what it's really handy for is the bundled software, in particular the Analog Lab V. This was a pre-release version sent to me, so I don't have everything, but apparently it'll be shipping with Ableton Lite, the Analog Lab V, and a melodic subscription with bonus material to help you improve your finger drumming and your keyboard skills. But the Analog Lab V is the one that it really works well with. So if we put it into Arturia mode or Analog Lab V mode, we can see we actually get the preset names up. We can flick through these with the up and down buttons. And we can look at the types, so bass, keys, lead, all that sort of stuff. All the stuff that you normally do on the software itself. Here we are in the software. It's got literally hundreds and hundreds of presets. And that's just the basses. And this is because I've got Arturia V Collection as well. And if you've got Arturia V Collection, this is a bit like a front end to it, really. Here's the patch I'm using now, and if I open that, I can then go and edit OPXA. If I don't have that, I'm not sure you can do that. I think you're limited to these controls down here, which are all mapped to these knobs and faders, obviously. But having the V Collection, I couldn't tell you what it does if you don't have it. And if we hit instruments, we can see all the instruments we've got access to there. And if I hit user, these are ones that I've made some presets for. And there we can see my lovely vintage style preset bank for pigments, which is available from my Starsky Car website at a bargain price of, I don't know what it is at the minute, but it's on offer. So yeah, check that out. So overall, it integrates really well.
I know it's daft, but I still get a little buzz from being able to recreate classic tracks on just the laptop. That was The Ballad of Dorothy Parker by Prince. If you hadn't already guessed, and that's on Sign of the Times album, well worth checking out. But coming up now, I've got the Minifreak from Arturia, and again, I hope they don't ask for this one back, because it really is a nice little synth. If you've seen the demo, or if you haven't seen it, do check it out. But they've got the Minifreak V software, which acts well, it's so identical to this, you can use it as an editor, but gives us a great opportunity to check the difference between using a hardware synth and software with a controller. So on the controller, we've got 18 knobs and sliders in total, and on the hardware, we've got 27, I've counted that at, plus we've got all the various select buttons and stuff like that. So the hardware itself does have a lot more going on. And if we go into the software, it's really handy that the software is identical to the hardware in this case. But great that Arturia have got this software. It's absolutely spectacular. It's a really
really good emulation of the Minifreak. Obviously the software hasn't got the analog filters, but it's still an excellent thing. And we can see here what I've managed to map. If we just come out of MIDI lane, that's what your normal view is. MIDI lane, anything in red is anything I've mapped to this keyboard. Let's map that attack as well. That should be it. There we go. So I've got the oscillators all mapped across the top here. I've got the filter, the resonance, the envelope amount, got the volume of the two oscillators on 4 and 5, and then 6, 7, 8 and 9 are the main ADSR envelope. So this is the model of the voice, the ratio on that voice, I should say, the detune on that one. So basically knobs 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it's 1, 2, 3 and 4. It's these 4 knobs that I've got mapped to 1, 2, 3 and 4. But on this we've got select 1 and 2. So I've had to take up 1, 2, 3, 4 with the other 4. It'd be really good, and I'm not sure if it's possible. If in Arturia MIDI control center, you could use the pads to toggle between different sets on this, on the right-hand side, and even perhaps use the pads to toggle between different types of envelopes. So envelope, run, or loop. Or on the LFOs, free, poly keyboard, mono, something like that, you know, keep on pressing these to flick through the menu. That'd be really handy. But as I say, I've no idea if it's possible. It may be something they'll throw in on an update, because if we go into the MIDI controller here, Keylab Essentials Mk3 isn't there yet, so maybe it will be. But as a controller with this and the computer next to me, it's actually really good. I mean, obviously on the software, the matrix is easier to use. You're not having to rely on the little screen and go in to work out what assign 1, 2 and 3 are. So we've got 3 assigns, got 3 pages of them. There they all are laid out, and you can see the amounts and change them really simply. So obviously there are massive advantages to having a computer screen. So using this and the computer is not the same as using hardware synth, but it is a lot more flexible. You know, I've not used the controller keyboard for a fair few years, so it was good to get a new one to see exactly how things have improved, and they have. So there you have it, Analog Lab Mk3. The experience was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, to be honest. The keys, I said at the start, they're sort of okay, but playing with these behind me again, these are just as good, not just adequate, they're fine. Not as good as the ones on my Prophet 600, because I've got a brand new Fatar keyboard in that, but the Roland Juno 60, DX7, Juno 6, ooh, they're horrible. What's that? That's the RPAX. So yeah, my initial reservations about the keys have been wiped out after playing with it for a little bit and then coming back in here. So yeah, level of integration is great, especially with Arturia Keylab. It's not as good, obviously, as using the hardware synth, or a hardware synth in particular. You're never going to get the level of integration you get with a dedicated piece of hardware, but all in all, I think it's, you know, it's a space saver, it's financially viable, and it's nice, light and portable. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon, or check out my starskycar.com website. I've got patches, I've got tutorials, loads of stuff, so you can give me money so I can carry on doing stuff like this. It's sort of like begging that, isn't it? I'm not sure I'm keen on doing those bits at the end, but everyone said I should, so I do. Anyway, I'll see you next time.